Texas. I'd like to call the March 5th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Let the public know this meeting was immediately preceded by a public hearing for text amendments to chapters 189, 220, and 245. If everyone would like to stand for the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cochran.
Present.
Commissioner Walsh.
Present.
Commissioner Fairchild. Present. Commissioner Castranion.
Present.
Commissioner Martin is absent.
There's no president announcements. The president is currently where the temperature is 72 degrees. But this meeting will be live streamed for those who wish to attend virtually. A recording of the meeting will also be available afterward for anyone who cannot join in real time. Now I'd like to take the consideration approval of the minutes of the board meeting from February 5th, 2025. Is there any corrections or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I have a comment, maybe a suggested addition. This was kind of a controversial meeting when we got to the point of looking at the nominations for the vacancy position on the board. And the minutes are quoting, the board moved to its next item on the agenda, which was the nomination and vote to fill the BOC
What page are you on?
vacancy on page 3.
Thank you.
As President Martin noted, 13 candidates were interviewed in a public meeting by the board on January 30th. President Martin suggested that the following process: each board member could nominate one candidate and then a vote would take place on all those put forth. And I guess, I certainly didn't really understand what this would lead to. And I also understand this should have been in the form of a motion, not a suggestion. But I'm just wondering, can we insert like a verbatim transcript of what Mr. Martin said, like after this paragraph here? What he actually said, would that be a benefit, or would the other board members be willing to do that?
And I wasn't aware that there's anything different, but Steve, do you have a problem with it? I mean, if it's in the minutes, if he says something, it should be in the minutes.
To be a reflection of what action is taken on particular actions, but the board has been pretty liberal in allowing other comments and matters could go into the minutes. So as long as it's accurate, if the board is so inclined, I don't mind that, or have an objection from a legal standpoint.
Well, thank you.
Anything else?
And the other one I questioned was near the end. It says Vice President, because this is on page 4, Vice President Castranion asked if Commissioner Fairchild was resigning. Commissioner Fairchild responded that he was not. I thought that was Mr. Martin that asked me that question.
Nope.
It was you. All right. There you go. You get credit where credit is due. So those were all the comments I had.
Anybody else then? All in favor of amending the minutes? I believe it's 1, 2, 3. After the fourth paragraph under administration, with what was specifically said, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, say nay. 4-0. Anybody, I don't have anyone that signed in that wants to speak, but this time is available for anyone who wants to come up to the podium and say something. Anybody? Karen? Okay, then. The consent agenda has approval of the bills in amount of $251,167.78. A financial security release for Winding Hills, Stage 5C, and Planning Commission Annual Report of 2024. I'm going to ask that we take each one of those separately to let the public know. Although my company was not involved in the financial security release request for Winding Hills, we were involved in doing some engineering work in that in the past. So I will be abstaining from item B. So I would like to take each item independently. So approval of the minutes in the amount of $251,167.78. Move approval.
Second.
I had.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
I had a comment, and I had shared this with Mr. Frazier ahead of time. I was questioning, it's on page 6, a bill for Winding Hills Park North open space to JDI Site Solutions for $23,000. And that was paid out of the bond proceeds fund. And you'd given me a more elaborate explanation, Scott. I just was hoping you could just maybe summarize it for the benefit of the public and my question about this item.
Sir, just that was related to expenses for mobilization, spreading of fill, and spreading of topsoil, but basically grading of that property that's on the corner of Winding Hill North. That is, I guess if you're looking at properties, right beyond the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
They came in, JDI Solutions came in after Coinex went bankrupt. Coinex was the original group we were doing business with that did some stormwater work for us, and they were going to do some grading work for us too. Just really simply for the cost of excess topsoil. JDI had a similar arrangement, but needed some payment up front for mobilization, equipment expenses. Unfortunately, we've run out of fill. Additionally, the cost of topsoil is a different price now. It's just not as lucrative as it used to be for these excavators. So I believe Chad spoke about it at the last Park and Rec meeting. But essentially, we tried to do this Winding Hill North thing as cheap as possible, but we really need to bring in a contractor and finish it up, bid the project. And we estimate the remaining part of the project will cost us $90,000, which is $60,000 for spreading and grading activities and $30,000 to transport fill from the park project. So this was the cost for JDI to spread about 80% of to complete about 80% of the fill spread. What's left is the other 20% of fill, and then the spreading of topsoil and grading.
Thank you, Scott. Anything else, Eric?
So maybe I'm not clear where exactly it was. I was thinking it was like between the concession stands or the sensory garden and the Park and Rec building, or is it on the other side?
We're talking about the same place.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's the place where there's the big pile of dirt, and
Right.
then if you keep going past it, that area too. So the
Okay.
point will be to level it all, put on turf grass, and then we'll need to let it settle for about 2 years, but people will be able to access it and be able to utilize it for anything they want.
And then we have another improvement for trails. That's
Yeah,
later
eventually
this
the idea
year.
would be to put the
Some
trails on the
extensions.
edge there too.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor of approval of the bills, say aye. Aye. So passes 4-0. Financial security release for Winding Hills PRD Stage 5C. I will be abstaining. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And 3-0 with one abstention. Planning Commission 2024 Annual Report. Jen, do you want to add anything about that? It's pretty self-explanatory of what all the projects that have gone through the pipeline.
Yeah, it's a summary of all the plans that Planning Commission reviewed. They, being an advisory committee, obviously you've seen the same plans and reports. So under the MPC, we are required to provide a report of the Planning Commission to the Board of Commissioners by from March of each year. So that's what this is their annual report. And then if you have any specific questions about the plans that were discussed in 2014, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is there any plans that haven't made their way to the board yet, that were on there yet, that they've acted on?
Do you not believe you have seen the Georgetown plan? That is currently tabled until the owner addresses some issues with stormwater management. And I believe at the time, we had discussed the waivers and deferrals for the Fantastic Plan.
Right.
But this board has not
Okay.
taken any action on that plan. That plan is set to come to you probably within the next month or so.
Is it Georgetown plan? I think I noted that isn't it going to expire soon? Do we need to have an extension?
She was most likely willing to give us a time extension until, I believe, June, just to, so she can still figure out her plan for the lot. So that's on hold. And then, like I said, the Fantastic Plan will be coming before you for discussion of the plan itself, probably April or May, tentative at this time. And then I believe the only other one you would not have seen would be the reverse lot add-on plan for Edward Wolford, because that was a lot add-on plan. That action is taken by Planning Commission, not the Board of Commissioners. And basically, Mr. Wolford had 2 lots. He came in and moved the lot lines around because he had a septic on the adjoining lot. And in order to sell that lot, his sewer had to be on his same lot. But that plan was done a few years ago, but then there was a deed restriction that when they went to sell the lot was causing some problems. So they reversed the lines back to the original size of the lots, and then they created an easement so that vacant lot could sell. So because we weren't creating any new lots, we were just moving lot lines, that did not need to come before you.
Okay, thank you.
And Jen, we often get questions about rezoning or when zoning changes. And I believe the only zoning change last year was the 14 acres in Autumn Chase from R1 to R2. And that was approved on September 18th, 2024. It says with conditions. Is that when we had the hearing? And then it says that ordinance adopted, written decision 10/02/24.
Yeah, so the written decision would have been the final.
Is
when
that the
was-
date it
when
really?
was given to-
Okay.
But you're correct, that is the only map amendment we saw last year,
Mhm.
was that residual tract in Autumn Chase.
And that's how you characterize it, as a map amendment versus a zoning change? Because we get asked from the zoning.
So you
Point,
either have, in terms of zoning, because you have your zoning ordinance and there's a corresponding map, it's either a zoning map change or a zoning text change or amendment. So in this case, they weren't changing any text within the zoning ordinance. They were changing the zoning classification on the zoning map.
The map.
So that's a zoning map amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, or can I hear a motion on the 2024 Planning Commission report?
Let's see here. I can help you with that. 3A. I move to approve ordinance 844 to amend section 189-5.
We're on the, just on the planning, there's going to be nothing written for you,
Oh,
just
so
the
moved.
annual report, right?
Okay, so moved. Sorry, I'm on the.
Moved by Commissioner Walsh. Was that a second?
Yep.
And moved and seconded. Any other comments? All in favor of the 2024 Planning Commission Annual Report signify by saying aye. Aye. 4-0. Sorry, everyone, for making it the longest consent agenda we've ever had, but public safety.
Yes, thank you. We picked up our new car, patrol car that was ordered in 2023. That's been upfitted and ready to go. That's replacing a car that had over 120,000 miles on it. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that the Cumberland County Chiefs of Police Association is having a testing consortium on March 23rd. Anybody interested in signing up can go to cumberlandcountypolicetest.com if they're interested in career law enforcement and working for a police department in Cumberland County. So other than that, that's all I have. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Chief Parsons? Thank you, Chief. Chief Schumberger.
Just to let you know, we're currently working on our recertifications for this year. Our hazmat, CPR, AED, all that kind of stuff should be done by the end of the month. And our new chief's buggy should hopefully be done by the end of this month as well. That's all I have. I'll entertain any questions.
Yeah, Chief, I had shared this with Mr. Frazier, and I guess the other board saw it. I mean, there was a large fire in Carlisle this past week at an apartment complex. It was built in 2010, and the fire started up in the attic. And because there was no separation between the units, there was a lot of destruction. I think it displaced 27 families.
Yes.
But I understand, I guess they're under the UCC code and we're under the ICC.
Yes.
So we don't particularly have an issue in Upper Allen, which would be good to know, or not.
Not really. I mean, there's a few that may. Off the top of my head, Oakwood Hills, pretty much a common attic, but it's divided by halves. And actually the Motel 6 down here that burnt, that actually was stopped in the middle because it actually had the firewalls and everything. So we're pretty good with that type of stuff. Our building codes guy and, the fire inspector, they're pretty good on that.
Do you have any sense of how that one in Carlisle started, or is that just too early to know? I mean, it seems a little bit unusual that it would start up there. There's generally not a lot up in an attic.
Yeah, most of those hotels, stuff like that, they don't require sprinklers in the attic. So if anything starts in the attic, it just runs one end of the attic to the other. So,
okay. Well, thank you.
Anything else for public safety? Planning and Zoning Committee. Jen.
First on the agenda is consideration to adopt an ordinance amending chapters 189, 220, and 245. And this is preceding the public hearing that we had earlier tonight at 6 p.m. So if the board has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Jen? Any public have any questions on the hearing that we had earlier or the ordinance that's being amended? Sure, come on up. But could you come up to the? Hit the green, yeah, hit the button, please. Thank you.
Need my name and address.
Yes.
Kent Strock, 791 Williams Grove Road. I just a couple of questions about the ordinance changes. Where can the public read those changes? Where do they originate from? And will the vote tonight be the final word on it? If you guys say, okay, this is what we want, you vote tonight, then it's done deal? Just question, for clarification, because I didn't know anything about it until a day or two ago, and I didn't know where you could, is it on the website that you can actually read the?
It was not posted originally. I noticed it wasn't posted and phoned in and they got it up. I think it was only up on the website, notice of the hearing for about 2 days. So
Okay.
they were a little slow getting that up.
So chances are most of the public doesn't know much about it.
Right. I'll let Jen speak, but the majority of the changes are just grammatical changes and making things jive with other places in the ordinances where they conflict.
Okay.
Um,
No major changes. I mean, you're not.
Jen, do you think there's any major changes?
think Commissioner Fairchild talked about, I guess we would consider that a major change with the density limitation in the R2. That would be for townhomes and duplexes, two-family homes. A lot of it is grammatical corrections, miscellaneous cross-references. There was some discrepancy between the zoning ordinance and the saldo regarding definitions of driveways and access drives and some duplicate materials, so we sought to clean that up. When we went through our last ASA update for ag security area, we noticed, and it was pointed out by the county actually, that some of the ASA properties allow for farm uses, but through changes in the zoning ordinance, agricultural use wasn't a permitted use, so we added that back in. So that's a good thing to make it a permitted by right use as opposed to a non-conforming use. Even though the ASA is separate and that's allowed, it was more the county said we should clean that up because we should have that agricultural use in certain.
So you're telling me that some of the ag security areas did not even allow agriculture to occur in them according to zoning regulations?
It did at one point in time, but through amendments over the years, it might have been taken out. So we added that back in as a permitted use so that there's not a non-conformity issue there. It didn't affect the ASAs in any way. It was just more a point going forward that we should correct the discrepancy. So that's what this would seek to do. I will note that the ordinance and the whole process has been online. We have a radio button. I pulled up our website if you want to look here, but on the okay, I can't get this. Yeah, I can't reach the, oh, there we go. Okay. Let me get that out of the way. So when you go onto the main website, there is a radio button that says ordinance amendments. If you click on that, it will show things that are going through the process. So here is this chapter 189. It talks about the standards. It has all the drafts, board meeting information, public hearing notice, and you will see it was first posted in October, and then anytime that section is updated, I add an updated date. So you can view the entire ordinance right here.
Okay.
And
All right.
it just becomes a PDF document, but we put our ordinance amendments right on that webpage.
But also, I mean, we had it during meetings last year. It was on our agenda a few times, and it was on our planning commission agenda a few times.
I guess I have to be a little more aware.
Right.
Gotta make
working.
sure and
We're working
be a
to make that
regular
better.
reader of the website to know what's going on.
Tim, is this one of the items that you can click to be notified on? So staff has updated the website, and maybe you can show them how we do that. You can go on the website and you can say, if changes happen here, let me know. And you can pick out the areas where you want to know if a change occurs. And we're trying to make people more aware. We've been posting things, but they don't see them all the time. And I want to correct my statement. What wasn't posted was the hearing date. The information was up here, but we didn't have the hearing listed until a couple of days ago. But you can go here on this page and the e-notify down there in the bottom right-hand corner. If you click on that, it brings up the e-notify, and there's all the different things down there that you can say, I want to be notified if something happens here. And so you can get a text message or an email.
Well, that's good to know.
Okay, so that way,
How many township residents know that?
yeah, that's brand new. It's only been active. Tim put that up a couple weeks ago. Just last week? Okay, so Tim and Alexis.
To that by scrolling down. Even on this page, you can scroll down to the very bottom under Connect with Us, and you'll see the e-notify. So if you're cruising around the website, looking at different pages, and then decide you want to sign up, you can just simply scroll all the way to the bottom and sign up from anywhere.
And this wasn't something we had available on the old website. We had to update to this new website to be able to do something like that.
The only thing constant is change.
So Jen, I always think it's helpful to see a red line copy of the changes, like where they put the new language in red and they strike out other language in red with a line through it. How does the public get to see that? Is that one of the drafts that's on the website or not? I had seen a red line at some point.
You did see redlined copies when we had the board meetings. I think the final draft is a final clean copy. Let's see here. Okay, so some of the draft versions, they do have redlined copies.
Look around,
To see
Ken,
the
you'll see it.
changes. And then I have a
If
clean
she X'd
copy
out.
for the final version. But I will note the final version and the November 15th version are, I believe, the same thing. It's just probably one's redlined, and then the final version is a clean copy. Yeah, so this final version is redlined to show any changes to existing language.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the back, did you want to speak? Thank you. All right, any other comments on the ordinance changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 844 to amend section 189-5 within chapter 189, property maintenance ordinance, sections 220-2.1, 220-3.5, 220-3.6, 220-5.2, 220-5.4, 220-5.5, 220-5.10, 220-5.13, and 220-5.19 within Chapter 220 Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, and Sections 245-2.1, 245.4.2, 245-5.2, 245-5.4, 245-5.5, 245-6.2, 245-11.7, 245-14.3, 245-14.19, 245-14.21, 245-14.37, 245-14.48, 245-14.56, 245-14-14.61, 245-16.5, 245-16.10, 245-17.2, 245-17.6, 245-17.8, 245-18.3, 245-18.4, 245-18.5, 245-18.9, 245-18.11, 245-18.12, and 245-18.21 within Chapter 245 zoning ordinance as presented. This ordinance shall take effect immediately.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments from the commissioners? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, no. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank
Jen.
you. I will also note, on the agenda, item B is that the zoning hearing board and HARB meetings have been canceled for the month of March. I will also note that, planning commission, has been canceled as well.
Thank you. Public Improvements Committee, nothing on the agenda.
There's
Sanitary Sewer, nothing on the agenda.
nothing.
Administration, same.
Yes, sir.
Park and Rec,
Just a quick announcement about Park and Rec. Our next meeting is going to be March 26th at 6:30. And as you've probably seen on social media and have heard, we are excited to get the new Grantham Park Playground installed within the next couple of months. And additionally, in parks, we have a new system that's going to be going online at the end of March or the beginning of April, where residents can reserve fields and pavilions and things right online. They can see a calendar, see which days are open, and do that right online. So that's going to be a new change that we'll unveil within the next month or so.
thank you. We also had a Park and Rec meeting February 26th. And I believe Chairman Williams noted that there was another award coming down for the Sensory Garden. I didn't write down exactly what award that was, but that's kudos to everybody involved in that again as,
Yeah, I think I reported on that one at the last board meeting.
okay.
I did one other thing then, Commissioner. Just to let everyone know that we are excited about our first platinum sponsor, or our only platinum sponsor for the 175th, which is the Willows at Ashcombe. If you go onto the website, you'll notice that there are a lot of things about the 175th being populated on there. There's a bunch of old-time photos, a list of all the events. And then speaking of events, our first one is coming up on Monday at 7 p.m. here at the Township. It's our first of 4 speakers. It's Dr. Sheremiah. She's speaking on the Indigenous Revolt, Carlisle, PA, and beyond. So she will take the stage here at 7 o'clock on Monday. If you are interested, we'd love to see you here on Monday.
Thank you. Also, there's a dog park meeting, the annual dog park meeting. I believe it's Wednesday, March 12th. I don't have the time written down. So I guess you'll have to, anyone's interested, you have to check the website.
Mr. Stronio, I have a comment about Park and Rec as well. At the last meeting, Mr. Williams raised the issue that I had raised previously about a possible Sunshine Act violation when they, Park and Rec met privately with Dirk and Knudsen back in 2021. And Mr. Williams is quoting the solicitor as saying that it was not a violation, but yet nothing has been provided to the board, stating as such. So I didn't know what the solicitor's opinion of this is.
I believe I said the solicitor might have verbally said that. I think President Williams said, he said it, he didn't think our consultant would have a meeting like that, but I'll let the solicitor speak on it. If you recall, it was a Park and Rec meeting that was held for fact finding for the Generations Park.
Yes, I recall that, but I don't recall being charged to
Right.
provide an opinion on whether there was a Sunshine Act.
No, there was never anything in writing, I believe, a request made or.
I mean, that's my understanding too, yet he is quoting, saying there was no violation for what the solicitor said. So I don't know quite how to resolve that.
Yep, the meeting, I'm not aware of any Sunshine Act violation, but if the board wants me to investigate that, certainly I'd be happy to do so.
Might give us a better determination about it. But, no. The other members think.
Frankly, I don't think there was any violation. I don't think it was Park and Rec. It was a meeting of Park and Rec. It was called by the consultant to talk to Park and Rec members. I understand that's a kind of a gray area, but there was no deliberation, there was no vote, there was nothing taken that would have it be part of a Sunshine Act. In my opinion, I'm not an expert by any means, but having read over the website and looked at some of the questions and answers, I think it'd be hard stressed to say that that was a meeting of a public body. It was one of 5 Zoom meetings that were called to get input from people. I think you participated in one of them, Eric, the neighbors.
Yeah, they were different questions, different kind of format in each meeting.
Yeah, I don't know the
Based on the
format.
stakeholder.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, but the format was basically the same. Zoom, people Zoom in and ask what they'd like to see in the park and what ideas they had for the park. And so when I think that happened 3 or 4 times, maybe 5, I don't know, but it certainly doesn't feel like a Park and Rec meeting.
So Dirk and Knudsen wrote up a set of minutes. They're on page 120 and 121 of their master plan report. I mean, it reads like a deliberation to me as to what was discussed, but the important thing is just the public had no access. And I read some statements in there that I don't particularly agree with or think are true, such as when Dirk and Knudsen asked, do you have space to hold large community events? And they were told, no, we don't. Yet we have the Winding Hills Park. I can't quite remember how far along it was developed in 2021, but it was kind of not, Dirk and Knudsen wasn't getting a correct understanding of our total park system. by what was conveyed in that meeting. But I guess that's not sunshine law, but it's a reason why you may want the public to be able to attend those kind of meetings so that they could question things like that. So I just think maybe to put an end to what it was or wasn't, the solicitor should look into it. At the time, I didn't want to create controversy with the Park and Rec Board. I asked a reporter what they thought of it. And I think I communicated this to you previously, Steve. That person corresponded with a former head of the Office of Open Records in Pennsylvania, and that person did think it was a violation. So there are different ways, or different opinions.
Interpretations of the Sunshine Act when it comes to committees. And while committees are subject to the Sunshine Act under the Smith versus Richmond Township case, it's a question of whether the committee has delegated authority to take official action on behalf of the municipality. In this case, from what I know of this, I don't believe the Park and Rec Commission did, nor was there necessarily a deliberation towards taking official action.
I agree. I mean, I agree that it wasn't, no action was taken. I mean, it was just a fact-finding meeting.
Well, there was also like a suggestion for an amphitheater. Somebody saw a huge amphitheater in Atlanta. What that has to do with McCormick Road, I don't know, but there's stuff like that in there that affected the future policy choices. So whether you want to characterize it as a deliberation, I guess that's up in the air, but it certainly led to some of the choices that the public was presented, you know, in the acorn sessions, as we call them. So.
Well, in fact, if there was a deliberation, that's what triggers the Sunshine Act issue. If there's no deliberation, whether you think it's some preliminary statement of policy or not, that is not. Now I recognize that there are some differences of opinion, but I'm guided by the state Supreme Court and not necessarily the Office of Open Records, although they interpret this issue fairly regularly.
I would ask Commissioner Fairchild, if you want to, could you put your request in writing? If you have a request for us to study that specific meeting, and then we'll act on that at a future meeting.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Anything else for Park and Rec? Under miscellaneous, solicitor update.
I only have one item, maybe general interest. There is a case that's now been accepted for appeal before the state Supreme Court called Solon versus East Bradford Township. Historically, municipalities were permitted to grant de minimis variances for dimensional variances. So if there was a slight deviation from the ordinance in terms of width or height requirements, that was generally within the zoning hearing board's authority to grant. Now, the Solon East Bradford Township case is going up to the state Supreme Court on whether the de minimis doctrine can also apply to use variances, which up to this point it has not. And so the state Supreme Court is going to hear that. They just accepted aliquotter, I think, 2 days ago. The facts of the case are really complicated in terms of what led to this use variance, but it's going to be a principle of general application that will be of interest to everybody.
Yeah, Mr. Feinauer, I had raised some objections last month or at the prior meeting about the process that we went through to choose the vacancy candidate and the appointment of, you know, the use of the vacancy hearing board and the appointment of Mrs. Shipman. And I don't believe there was an affirmative vote to appoint her. But since then, you have written us a memo, and I have some questions about that. And can we have an executive session to discuss that following this meeting?
Yes.
Oh, I would like that.
Okay, if you feel it's appropriate, yeah. Tax collection committee update. COG. There's no COG, no MAB. Township Commissioners, State Association. Do we even, who's going to be looking into that? Well, I guess we should decide as a board at some point. Doesn't have to be tonight. And come to any other public comment that needs to be made or wants to be made. Just my little bit of humor that has been absent tonight. That can we let our engineering consultant know these pens they got us? I have ink all over me. Thank you. We can't, so we're going into executive session. To just, what?
You have to say for legal opinion.
Okay.
That's why.